All right. Hmm.
Like the one in Maine or through some other mechanism that can be quite effective. Certainly, if more states were to adopt these laws, we would, on our end, through NICS and NCIC, have to make arrangements to be able to then have that information in the relevant databases to be able to help prevent them from getting their hands on a weapon. But certainly it's something we could look at.
Thank you. Another proposal that I've long supported would strengthen federal law by making it easier for prosecutors to go after gun traffickers and straw purchasers. Let me describe what I've seen and heard about in the state of Maine from law enforcement officers. Gangs and drug dealers target addicts who have clean records. So they then ask them to purchase guns for them, and they swap heroin or other drugs for the guns. These guns are then used to commit horrific crimes in our communities, often far from Maine. There was a gang in Connecticut that was known for coming to Maine, enlisting addicts to buy guns for them because the addicts had clean records and could pass the background check. So this Congress, I once again joined my colleague, Senator Leahy, in reintroducing the Stop Illegal Trafficking in Firearms Act. And we would create a new criminal offense for straw purchasing. Right now, it's essentially treated as a paperwork violation, a slap on the wrist. Instead, we would make these crimes punishable by time behind bars. What is your opinion of closing that straw purchaser loophole that allows for criminal gangs to access guns when they could not buy them themselves because of their own criminal records?
Well, I think I would have to study the legislation more closely to give you a more informed assessment of that. I will tell you that even back when I was a line prosecutor, I used to prosecute a lot of these same straw purchaser cases, and typically, as you say, they're prosecuted as false statements cases, when somebody essentially lies on the 4473 form. And just as you say, what you see over and over all is violent gang members who enlist people who are down on their luck for one reason or another. Either they're, as you say, they're addicts, or they're financially in distress, and so the money that comes with it when they get paid to be a straw purchaser, they take advantage of people who are down on their luck that way. I think there might be a difference in the culpability level for the straw purchaser versus the gang member who enlists them, and that's when I tried those cases and prosecuted those cases, that was sort of the approach we took. But I think you're right to be focused on the straw purchaser issue as an important ingredient to preventing guns from getting in the hands of people who are, after all, prohibited listing law from having.
Right. I actually feel bad for many of the straw purchasers because they frequently have serious substance abuse problems and they're being manipulated and used by these gang members. But that is a real problem. Um, Let me follow up on the drug issue. And as we know, America has set a terrible new record in the number of drug overdoses in the past year. It's 104,000 Americans died of drug overdoses. In Maine, an estimated 636 people died of drug overdoses in 2021. That's a 23% increase from the previous year. But what to me is even or equally chilling is the fact that that's actually only a small portion of the number of overdoses. The number of overdoses in Maine that we know about was nearly 9,000. Fortunately, the rest of them were saved. I talked to Attorney General Garland about this issue, and he pointed out that the FBI, along with other DOJ components, is playing an important role in fighting the large-scale drug trafficking organizations that are bringing drugs into this country. I am concerned about what is happening at the southern border based on my discussion with border control agents. Has the government's inability to secure the southern border led to more drugs entering the United States?
Well, certainly the influx of drugs across the southern border is a very important fuel, not just to addiction in this country, but to violence in this country. And that's one of the parts that the FBI plays a pretty big role in. You have transnational criminal organizations in Mexico enlisting the help of gangs and other organizations here in the U.S. to distribute the drugs, and there's violence over turf, over distribution routes, etc. I know that when I've been down to the border and talked to the CBP folks there and to our field offices that have responsibility in that area, the quantity of the seizures that they routinely are engaged in make the seizures in other parts of the country quite small by comparison. I mean, it's just another day in the life for a lot of them, and so it's striking. And I think you're correct that the overdose death statistic, or the overdose statistic itself, in some ways underestimates the scope of the problem, in part because Narcan happily has become so much more widely available, but that in turn ends up almost masking the problem. So the effectiveness of first response, which is a good thing, is actually maybe misleading some into thinking that the problem is not as bad as it really is, and it's really an epidemic.
And FBI director being asked a number of questions by our Senate leaders, including the FBI's response to this mass shooting in Texas. I am sending some viewers out to a 2-minute break as we continue listening in here live on Capitol Hill. I'm Live Now from Fox.
On the right, from overseas, such as ISIS. In other words, there's not just one ideological source of domestic terrorism, is there?
certainly when we look at domestic terrorism, we focus on the violence, and we're sort of ideology agnostic, if you will. And the terrorism, the domestic terrorism threat we see covers the waterfront from people. We don't use terms like left and right, but we see the racially motivated violent extremists. We see militia violence and anarchist violence. We see people with this salad bar of ideologies that don't fit into any category. And then, of course, we tend to bucket it on the international terrorism side, the ISIS-inspired folks who are here. They're not sent here by ISIS, but they're here and they're radicalized online. That's a huge category, and the plot that we disrupted that was talked about earlier involving the attempt to kill former President Bush is a good example of that threat. So I think I understand the focus on ideology, but for us, the focus has to be on the violence to make sure that we're not missing something in that regard.
And that's where it should be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Collins. Senator Braun.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can't remember the last time we had a chance to speak, but good to have you back again. I want to go back to, and I think I asked Mr. Garland or somebody else this question, but when you go back to 2020, the summer of it, there was a lot of crime in our cities, and of course, what I've been hearing mostly about would be the arrests that we've made associated with January 6th. So can you give me some kind of accounting in terms of all the various incidents that occurred across our big cities that had, crime in the streets, where I think we actually ended up with more people killed, lots of downtown businesses, burned and damaged. Have we been as diligent there as we have on the January 6th issue? And just give me a general accounting where I know that we've arrested over 700 individuals associated with it. What have we accomplished from what was, something maybe even broader in scope in terms of damage and lives lost?
So I don't have exact numbers for you here, but what I will tell you is that the violence amidst all the civil unrest over the summer of 2020, we used all 56 of our field offices. We used our joint terrorism task forces in all 56 of our field offices. There were hundreds of investigations, hundreds of arrests. Now, I should pause on that last part because often there is, as you know, no domestic terrorism offense, federal domestic terrorism offense. So a lot of times we on our joint terrorism task forces, which have state and local officers assigned to, part of the reason for that is that sometimes the most effective charge is a state charge. So a lot of times the federal investigations from some of the activity over the summer resulted ultimately in some state charge. But we had any number of cases involving Molotov cocktails, burning and firebombing, police cars, things like that. And we continue. They don't get a lot of attention in the press, but we continue to develop cases and bring charges still from some of the activity back then. So we have not taken our foot off the gas on those cases.
No, I didn't know you have that information. I'd like to know with a little more specificity back to the office later in terms of what that kind of comparison would be in terms of arrests and convictions based on January 6th versus the whole spectrum of what occurred back in the summer of 2020, if you would.
I'll see what we can get you on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tragically, we've had another shooting occur. I'm interested in that mental health component, interested in whether it's racially motivated, whether it's just somebody that is out to create havoc like just occurred. What are we doing that takes information that in many cases is broadcast as aggressively as being in a manifesto? Maybe not that direct, we pick up always after the fact that there's been some telegraphing of what might happen. So, are we doing what you think needs to be done to kind of figure out what might occur when we find out after the fact that there's generally been information out there from as obvious as a manifesto to maybe a lot of indications that this could happen? Are you happy with what law enforcement is doing across the board, especially the FBI?
Well, I'm very proud of the hard work of the men and women of law enforcement, not just the FBI, but our state and local partners who bear the primary burden for a lot of what you're talking about. I will say that there is no shortage of hateful information out there on the media in different forms. And we, the FBI,
All right. Okay, so we're gonna see what we have. Um, okay, let's see. Mm, mm, I got it. Sweet. Okay. So there's that. That's part of what we discussed about. Um, there's that. Let's see, what else? Okay. We are going to do some topics of Boolean. Okay. Boolean. We have There we go. I'm gonna make this bigger for you guys. Okay. Okay. So first one is vocal, verbal, social, and cyber. Okay. First one is physical. That one is going to be about hitting, kicking, spinning, tripping, pushing, and blocking. Next one is verbal. Name calling, insult, teasing, intimidation, and remarks. Comments, um, so there's that one on verbal. Next is social. Someone out. Purpose. Telling others not to be friends with someone. Okay, so there's that one. Okay. Next up, we have cyber bullying. Posting, sending. This one, that one's a big one. Okay. So, those are some pretty ones. So, so there's that. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Um, okay. Let's see. All right. So there's cyberbullying. So we got cyberbullying, which is all this. And then we have social bullying, which is another one. Rumors leaving someone on purpose, telling other friends, with someone embarrassing. There's that. You have verbal, which is name calling, teasing, intimidating, um, remarks, such as rude comments. Next one, physical bullying. You got hitting, kicking, spitting, tripping, pushing, blocking, which is another one. Okay, we're going to open up another tab. Okay. Okay, we have bullying, which is being a friend. You have the U, use kind words. L, looking for and report bullying. L, learn to use empathy. And the Y, you can stop bullying. Just that. Hmm. Okay. Now here we go. Perfect example. Natasha Cooper. Okay. So that's another person, another victim of bullying and true crime. Let's see what else we got. Um, all right. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Okay. So for next Monday's topic is abuse. So I'll be live at 3 p.m. on my channel. So make sure you guys tune in for that. And yeah, so I will see you guys later.